All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Here's a video no one's going to watch. Unless you're a sadomasochist, you're probably not going to watch this video. This is a deep dive on Florentius, probably the least used hero in the game. But I'm a completionist, and I want to get some videos out this week, so I'm going to do a deep dive on him. Now, Florentius, like Sergius, comes from the arena shop, and you get his relics from the clan shop. Now, should you get a copy of him? No. Did I waste some currency getting mine to Chivalry 2? Probably. Did I waste some clan currency getting his ice or his frost relic? Probably. But let's try to pick apart his kit, because his kit reads like a novella. It's so you'll see. So hard. You almost need like a chalkboard with if this, then that, then this, then that, then that, then this. So let's try to dive into him. Let's see if we can find a use for this guy, because you see, I'm almost awakened 5. All right, let's go. Okay, passives. P1. Oh god, this is gonna suck. Yeah, novel. Okay, so passive 1, bloodlust. So when attempting to inflict an abnormal status. What is that? That is CC. So that's any kind of CC. Let's click on this. It'll tell us what it is. So stun, polymorph, sleep, fear, oblivion, brainwash, confusion, taunt, temptation, bind, silence, steal, turn, and freeze. So when going for one of those, then 100% chance to inflict attack speed decrease 2 on the target. So 1 for 1 turn. If this hero has Defiant Shout, which means if he is inflicted with evasion rate decrease 2 for the rest of the battle and he cannot heal. If Florentius has Defiant Shout, while the target has this, inflicted with the same thing, evasion rate decrease 2 for the rest of the battle, cannot heal, then he's going to remove the debuff from himself. He's going to gain attack increase 1 and defense increase 1 for the rest of the battle. He has a 100% chance to steal all buffs from the target. Then he has a 100% chance to reduce the target's attack gauge to 0 by 100%. Then he has a 100% chance to increase the duration of abnormal status effects on the target, including the one he just tried to apply, because this is order of operations. Then he has a 100% chance to remove Wrathful Defender from the target, which cannot be resisted. So if when he's trying to inflict a CC, he's going to remove the 2 negative side effects from himself and the enemy. Then he's going to do all that stuff, which is good stuff. It's decent stuff. Then by the end of it, he's going to have all that. He's going to be done all those things, and then the Defiant Shout will be off him, and Wrathful Defender will be off your target. Woof! So this 100% chance to reduce the target's attack gauge by 100%, that alone is good. Spreading or increasing abnormal status effects is good. So there's some good stuff in there. It just reads. There's a lot has to happen, right? If this, then this. Okay? So this is the first if then. Then we also have another if then. If this hero has, then do all that. So there's 2 things going on here. All predicated on the fact that he has to have those 2 debuffs up, and he has to try to land an abnormal status effect. Or he has to have those up when he tries to land an abnormal status effect. That's just the P1. P2, Guts. Cooldown at 2 when maxed. When using skill 2, 100% chance to charge attack gauge by 60%, so that's good. Basically, think of like a Tristan, like a free turn after you use it on a cooldown, and gain amplification for 1 turn, meaning on that next turn, which is going to come up really quick, you're going to generate another vigor. Okay? And obviously, this is only going to be 40% if you have it at level 1. This is going to be a 4-turn cooldown, but you can get it down to a 2-turn cooldown, which isn't horrible. So gain attack speed, basically, gain attack gauge, and that amplification, which is increased vigor. P3. Immediately before, so it's another if-then. I don't like if-thens because it limits the effectiveness. I like at the start of battle, when using skill X, those kind of passives. Immediately before attacking, if the target has a positive immunity. So immunity. Immunity means abnormal status immunity, or I do believe invincibility. Let's read it. Damage immunity, which is invincibility. Debuff immunity. Dot immunity. Abnormal status immunity. Attack gauge decreased immunity. Blessing or invincibility. It kind of limits his use on this one. Then 100% chance to remove positive immunity. One positive immunity from the target. Okay, that's just his passives. We're going to go directly into his relics first because we're going to have to bounce around. So he comes in wind. Wind is what is his base. You see, I don't have a whole lot of development into this because I didn't use it. I don't use it. But let's talk about it. Okay. So let's start with, well, first of all, so this one you have to use, which one was it? This one, skill 2. So in his passives, they want you to use his skill 2, and then to trigger his first passive, you have to be applying negative status or CC effects. So on his wind, which is his base, this is what he comes in. When you do his P2, this is where you're applying the Defiant Shouts and the Wrathful Defenders. So 100% chance to remove Wrathful Defender from each enemy if they had it. So that would be on the second use of this ability. Now we get into the first use. 100% chance to inflict Wrathful Defender on one enemy. Cannot be resisted. 80% chance to inflict effect resistance decrease 2 for 1 turn. That's not a CC. And then 100% chance to gain Defiant Shout for the rest of the battle. So Wrathful Defender, remember, it's just evasion decrease and you can't heal. He's going to inflict that on who he inflicted on, and he's going to give it to himself. You cannot heal him if he uses his S2. Now, we got to refer back to his P1. So while he has that, and while the enemy has that, then you have to inflict an abnormal status to remove that from himself, but he's also going to remove that from the enemy. Still with me? Okay, that's just his P2. No abnormal status effects in there, though. The abnormal status effects come in here. His wind. Attack all enemies. So an AoE, 50% independent chance to grant silence for 1 turn. Silence is an abnormal status effect. So this is the problem with Florentius. You have to play him on manual because much like Gawain, I think Gawain, you have to basically line up his skills. Florentius, you have to do his S2 first to get those effects on yourself and the enemy. Then you have to do his S3 to trigger his P1. Right? And his P1, we got to refer back, gives them all these good things. Attack increase, defense increase, remove 100% turn meter, steal the buffs, yada, yada, yada. Right? And this, if they had positive immunities, he also strips them too. So you really have to play this guy S2, then S1, which you can't do on auto because, well, I guess you can. So if you set up S1, then S2, he's always going to do S1 though, because it's a 2 vigor cost. The auto will never use that S3 because it's always going to prioritize that S2 first and has a lower vigor cost. So if it was set up backwards, you could set up if the skills were backwards in his kit, you could set it up for S1 then S3 then S2 because there's going to be times when he doesn't have the vigor. So you would ideally want to apply those 2 status effects and then do the abnormal status effect when he doesn't have the vigor on the S2. Makes sense? I know. It's confusing. So this is why he's a trash unit. And then this one, so on his P1, Attack one enemy 2 times, total damage, and then 5% chance to inflict silence. Now, you can get that up to 10%. Now, that's not going to land. But that kind of gets around the issue with the S3. So what you can do is you can run him. You can have an auto with this one prioritized and then, so S2 over S1. But then you can't run him in a vigor set because you want him, if you run him in a vigor set, he's always going to run or use his S2. He's never going to use the S1. You really need to get him in a situation where he's not going to have any vigor. He only generates 1 and uses his S1, which is why this equipment is wrong. I just had him in this for the time being, but this is wrong. You really want to build him as an attacker, even though he's a controller, right? So he's a man that doesn't know what he wants to be. So that's his wind relic. That's his passives. You confused yet? I think I got it, but I have his frost relic, which you can get out of the clan shop. Should you? I don't know. Probably not. But let's read. Why is this one? So let's start at his S2, because remember, you have to set him up for S2 first. So now, his wind relic, the S2, was a non-attacking ability. So if you were going to run wind, you'd have to run him on manual, because you'd want to do the S2, and then obviously you want the bigger attack that's on his S3. So you'd do the S2, then AoE silence with his S3. If you're running him on auto, you can't. You got to do S2, S1. But now, in Frost, at least, he's going to be attacking. Attack all enemies. So an AoE attack. He's going to do the same things. 100% chance to remove Wrathful Defender if it was already on the target. So that's the second time he uses this ability. Then 55% individual chance to inflict effect resistance decrease on each enemy. So an AoE effect resistance, that's 20% less effect resistance on the whole opposing team. Then inflict Wrathful Defender. That means they can't heal, and they gain evasion decrease on one enemy. On one enemy. So you have to pick which one. Cannot be resisted, so it will land. But then he gains Defiant Shout, which you should never nerf yourself. Evasion, he also gets the same thing. Cannot heal, evasion rate decrease. But that sets him up for removing it when he tries to do an abnormal status immunity or effect. So where are the abnormal status effects in Frost? Well, here we go. Attack one enemy, 100% chance to inflict freeze, 60% chance to inflict oblivion. But again, we're running into the same issue where you'd have to play him on manual based on how the AI prioritizes its order of effects based on vigor generation, right? Okay, you with me? All right. So you always want to do S2 first, regardless of wind or frost. And then this one, it's nice. A freeze, 100% chance just to freeze. That's really good. That means you can just pick who you want, freeze him. 100% chance. Oblivion, even better. Turns their passives off. And then S1, silence. So here, if you were going to run him on auto, you'd have to do the same kind of thing. You want to re-gear him completely, put him in a non-vigor set. If you want to run him on auto, prioritize attack over vigor generation so that he is using his S2 then his S1. Keep in mind, he's going to generate vigor on himself using skill 2 on a 2-turn cooldown. So he's kind of fighting against himself. He's really a hero that you want to play manual. And to be honest, one of the lone times I got to play in Clan v Clan, I did use Florentius in his Ice Relic just to keep Bedivere froze the whole time. The opposing Bedivere, since it's 100% chance and effect resistance decrease is going to go on them from his kit, you can basically pick and choose who you want to keep locked down using his S3. S3 or S2? S2 or S3, sorry. So weird kit. Let's look at his fire just for the sake of fire. Same thing here. You know, blah, blah, blah. Inflict, gain, effect accuracy decrease. But again, his fire and his wind, his S2 is a non-attacking ability. Which is why I would say if you were going to run fire or wind, you could maybe prioritize vigor, but then you got to play him in auto based on the auto rotation. S3 is now Not an AoE. It's a attack one enemy 2 times. Again, his Frost is not an AoE either on the S3. It's attack one enemy 1 time. His Wind is an AoE. Attack all enemies. Silence. Attack one enemy. The first hit has a 100% chance to stun. Basically the same. It's not a freeze. Freezes is kind of basically the same thing. But 100% chance to stun with you can get a 70% chance to inflict Oblivion. So basically the same as Frost, but pick your poison on the CC. And then I'm guessing this is all silence as well. So very, very similar. So what would I pick? Well, if you're going to run on my manual, this S3, it's 50% chance though. Silence, they can still attack. They can only use their S1 against you though. Whereas this, I think this has much more use, given the fact that if you were going to play manual, you got that 100% chance to freeze or Oblivion. Again, fire, same thing, stun, or Oblivion. But the reason why I like ice more, why I think ice is the best one, is because since you have to get this on, you have to use his S2, regardless of which relic, for his P1. This is an AoE. I would much rather be doing something than nothing. Keep in mind, if you wanted to run Wind, you do this and then do his S3, which is an AoE attack. But like we said, then it goes into the silence versus freeze, and I think the freeze has more utility. All right. Was that complex enough? It's going to get worse. It's going to get more complex because I only have him at C2. Let's talk about gear. So we kind of discussed it. If you wanted to play him, and you wanted to play him, so if you want to play him on manual, right? Which you do kind of do. So the only time you don't want to play him, you only want to play him on auto if you don't want to ever use the S3, because the auto will not work like that. If you want to play him on auto, because you can't have S3 go first. If you want to play him on auto, you're gonna have to re-gear him for attack, right? Because the only way you're gonna get use out of his kit is if he goes S2, S1. So you have to re-gear him completely. You want attack, which is why, unfortunately, Florentius is a dog shit boat anchor, vigor, and you're gonna have to play him on manual to use him. Now, you don't have to inflict the negative status effect or the abnormal status effect to trigger the P1. You just have to attempt to inflict it. So you don't need effect accuracy, even though I have effect accuracy on him. Again, effect resistant. I don't have him geared well. How I would gear him is, I think I would still, even though you only have to attempt to inflict, given the fact that I want that freeze landing, even though it's 100% chance, so you're already starting at base, I think I would still go effect accuracy on the neck and effect accuracy on the belt, because landing them is still nice. Then, obviously, he's an attacker. This is not good. Do I have crit rate handy? I do not. I would probably want crit rate earrings, right? I don't have it. He's got shit gear on him. I'm just telling you what to do. Crit rate, because he is an attacker, you might as well get a little bit of DPS out of him. Although, then we go into his, attack speed. You see, I don't use him, so he's just got this as a benchmark to hold him here. Attack speed on the ring. Attack speed on the orb. So, effect accuracy, crit rate, attack speed, effect accuracy. Vigor, accuracy set. That way you know you're landing those abnormal status effects. Obviously, you want him going faster. So look for effect accuracy on the substats. Then, I'd say, effect accuracy, crit rate, attack speed, attack. He's a controller. Which, is he doing a lot of controlling? Not really. He's a weird unit, guys. He's a very, very weird unit. He's so niche. That's why I said this video is going to get no views, because he is so niche. You got to play him a manual. He's got a really funky kit. Now let's get into the chivalry. So again, vigor, accuracy. Unless you want to run him on auto, then you might as well gear him as an attacker. But but if you're going to gear him as an attacker, you're going to have the frost relic because that's the only way you're going to do damage. Oh, such a weird unit. Weird unit. So all of that, if that's confusing, if you can't understand that, the link to my Discord is in the description. You can come ask me in the Discord. All right, let's go into his chivalries. Okay. So, additional effect for Bloodlust. This is where he got that additional attacks increase 1 and defense increase 1. This was on his P1, his passive 1, where he has to have the effects from his S2. Then you have to attempt to inflict an abnormal status effect either on his S3 or his S1. When you do that, then, and only then, you're going to gain attack increase 1 and defense increase 1 for the rest of the battle. But like it says, when conditions are met. I don't like conditions, especially this specific. HP. Wow. HP. What are controllers? What does it say they want to do? Well, it's funny because he's stag too. Increased effect, attack centric abilities. What do you want to be, sir, when you grow up? So this one, I don't got this one yet. Gladiator's Wrath, skill enhancement and additional effects. So this is his P3. Remember, if they have a positive immunity effect, he cleanses it. Now, changes it from this, or basically he's going to steal it. Instead of remove one positive effect, he's going to steal it. So if they have immunity, like Guinevere, let's go look at his P3, because I think it's just immediately before attacking if they have. So it doesn't matter. He just has to attack, which means it has to be his S3 on his fire or wind, or his S2 on frost. If when then. But he can steal that positive immunity effect, which includes invincibility. And then 100% chance to transfer all debuffs from himself to the target. So niche. It's not good. And then, like I said, you want the crit rate on the earrings. Well, there's why. You're going to get more crit rate from his chivalries. So you might as well build him to crit. If they're giving you crit rate, you might as well build him to crit. Attack, defense, HP. So additional skill for guts. Let's remind ourselves what guts is. It's his S2. When using skill 2, 60% attack gauge amplification. So his big bad C8 is attack gauge charge plus 40%. So now, when using skill 2, you get a free turn. You get 100% attack gauge. Then you get 100% chance to gain, and here it is, crit strike damage 3. That is the biggest crit strike damage buff in the game. That is 80% crit strike damage. So you saw down here, there was some crit rate there, and we skipped over it. More crit rates. You get 20% crit rate, attack speed, and attack. And then there's some more crit rate. So his chivalries are going to give you a lot of crit rate. And then his C8 on his S2 is going to give you big, big crit damage numbers. What the hell is this guy trying to be? He's a controller attacker, whereas someone like Claudius is an attacker controller. I don't like heroes like this. Have them excel in their role. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's his chivalries, that's his relics, that's his gear, that's his passives. Good luck. Good luck. His chivalries say, build me for damage. Yet, you have to do S2, S3. So you have to play him on manual. So yes, you can build him for an attack. Obviously, you want to build him for crit rate because he's going to have that monster crit damage. So he has the ability to do damage. At the same time, everything else is going on in this kit. So let's go back to gear. I'd say only play him manually. build him for vigor or attack, whichever you want. He wants both. I'll update the graphic on the spreadsheet. This guy's just he's just messy. He's just messy. So that's all the chivalries. Although, what was the cardinal rule? What was his S9? Yeah, more crit rate, and then that's the same. So, yeah. By the time you're never gonna get him C8 though. No, you're gonna be. You'd much rather put your because you get him out of the clan or the arena shop, the Coliseum shop. I'd say get Sergius and Tristan copies before you got to worry about this guy. He's so niche. He's so specific. Ugh. But I have seen him do, in early days of Arena. So when this game first came out, I used to see a lot more Sergius Florentius pairs. So early Arena, he was okay here. He was okay here. He was more of an arena focused team or guy, because like that block healing, if you want to target the attacker in the opposing team, make it so that they can't heal. That's helpful. And then if you AoE silence the whole team or freeze an attacker, that's helpful. So he had his initial niche use here right off the bat. The problem is that you couldn't pull him. You had to wait until you had all that currency saved up to get a copy. And then why would you get a copy of him when you could get Sergius, who is much, much better? So then the meta for Arena kind of blew by him before he ever got a chance to be effective in Arena. The only other real place that I've seen him used, or possibly used, is Aldry. Because, right, what he does is he can do his S2, then Aldry can never heal. So you could run him over Accolon, right? But the caveat is he's going to die. He's going to die because if the enemy can't heal, you can't heal Florentius. Meaning he's going to die, and then you're left with doing nothing. So what benefit do you have to bring in him here where you're going to lose him versus Accolon, who has an almost 100% chance to keep that healing immunity or healing disruption buff or debuff up 100% of the time and do damage? You hear me? Or Gilroy. They made Gilroy specifically for this fight. So I think, given that Florentius is in the Coliseum Arena shop, they had intended for him to be an Arena hero specifically. And no one uses him. No one uses him because his kit's just so wonky. So regardless, if you're looking to figure out how he works, that's how he works, ladies and gentlemen. That is how Florentius works. Sit down, have a look. It's in a book. It's Reading Rainbow. And that's going to be the code word of the day. Reading Rainbow. I used to watch that show religiously as a child. It's cool armor and everything, but such a dumb hero. And what's with the Godsmack tattoo? I know that's a scar, but he looks like he's got a Godsmack tattoo on him. So whatever. He's got the chain around the wrist. He's got a little bit of Warhammer 40k vibes going on. So, Reading Rainbow. That's word of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Put that down in the comment section below. I'll know you made to the end of this video. If you have any comments, questions, concerns about Florentius, you can hit me up in my Discord, or you can talk in the comments of this video. Catch you in the next one, everybody. Cheers. Peace. Bye-bye. I did it again. This is becoming a thing.